Oh, and we're back.
Hi, I'm Llytic.
Llytic, you there?
Yes, I just said I was. I said hi.
Oh, okay. It's Tom. Sorry, your audio cut out for me for some reason. It's Tom and Llytic, and we're back with some more awesome posts here.
Yeah. We are, of course, continuing Madam Macabre's Wolfbeard story.
And because Zane is not able to join us, I don't know if we said that last episode, but yeah, he's not dead. We haven't killed him yet, but he's just got some things going on.
Stuff going on, and we didn't want to continue my inner life. Whoa, my inner life without him.
Yeah, I mean, it really wouldn't be the same without him. So
not the same without him almost vomiting.
Yep, that's. I wonder if he actually is almost vomiting just from the reading. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but it's still interesting.
It's fascinating. But all right.
Anyway, let's get to some good writing.
Good writing, and we do it whenever he's not here.
Well, we are kind of sadistic.
Yeah. All right. Wolfbeard 3, The Bionic Heartbreaker.
Oh, I already like where this is going.
Oh god, this is part of the reason why I asked you that one question. Hello once again, and thank you for the continued support. Today's tale continues the epic saga of our favorite lupine Neckbeard and his quest to court Milady. When we last left off, Wolfbeard had attempted to beach himself in a mud puddle in the forest trail behind the apartment complex after overhearing me say how much I disliked the gross comments he made about me and how I didn't want to be around him anymore. A lesser beard may have given up and just decided I was a dumb whore that just wanted to find a Chad to hop on like all the others. But Wolfbeard was a persistent one and had no intentions of giving up the hunt without his prize.
Here we go.
I'm not gonna lie, one of the funniest things I ever read on like r/nice guys was the term cock carousel. You just want to hop on the cock carousel like all the other girls. I was like, wait, there's a cock carousel? That sounds amazing.
That sounds like a tourist attraction, like the world's largest ball of twine or something.
Like, it's literally like your typical carousel, but instead of horses, it's just giant sculpted dicks.
With vibrating functions.
Sign me up.
I'll pass on that one. Some time passed, and I did not speak to or see Miss Piggy for a while. She had kind of broken my trust in her with the last Wolfbeard incident, and I needed some time to cool off. It also didn't help that my friend Lilith had definitely not hit it off with Piggy. Right from the get-go, she told me she got bad vibes from this girl, something I should have listened to her about, but would have to find out the hard way later. Yeah, if your really good friends are telling you, like, be wary of this one person, it's probably for a good reason, and you should probably listen to them, even if you're not feeling anything, because bias is everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Since, let's see, at the time, I thought it was just a little bit of rivalry. Also somewhat understandable.
Yeah, I can understand why one would think that, but yeah. Miss Piggy definitely wasn't super warm towards Lilith. She seemed to feel as though the fact that we had been friends longer since kindergarten automatically made her my sole and dearest best friend. And that my attempts to rekindle our old friendship was proof of this. However, Lilith and I are very close, and it's plain for anyone to see. I can't tell you the number of times people have mistaken us for literal sisters.
Not necessarily a bad thing, especially when you're with friends.
Typically, if you're really good friends with people, they'll either mistake you for siblings or partners.
Or something else, yeah.
Had that happen before.
Yeah.
Since this clearly challenged Miss Piggy's perceived status, she was on guard from the start.
What's most fascinating to me, however, was that though Miss Piggy turned a willfully blind eye toward Wolfbeard's seemingly apparent infatuation with me, the sight of those same behaviors directed toward Lilith burned her up. Over the course of the evening we had been over, every time Wolfbeard would make a gross comment directed at Lilith, instead of directing her anger at Wolfbeard, Piggy would shoot daggers into Lilith from across the room. How dare you look pretty?
How dare you be attractive? Okay. Okay, there is something I might need you to check out at some point, because it has a moment like that, and it is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Okay, Let me know.
Well, I
about
mean,
that
you
later.
are a talking frog. Shut up, you talking Kindle. Hey, shut up, you talking Kindle. There's a Let's Player out there. His name is Bryce, and he is the most, cute twink, despite being straight, that you will ever see on... he looks like he should be in a boy band. I'm not kidding.
Man, I wish I looked that good.
I wish my hair could look that good. He looks like he should be in a boy band. He's got those kind of good looks. But he is
okay, so
also,
the pretty boy looks.
Yeah, he's like the ultimate pretty boy, but he is also one of the sweetest, just happy-go-lucky, positive people I've ever seen. So
you know what? I take it back. I don't wish I'd have looks like that. I'd rather not be a pretty boy. That might be my own vanity, but I don't know.
Oh. I've only heard Manga Minx tell him to fuck off once. I mean, fuck himself once. That's saying something.
Yep.
Generally, Lilith is a really nice person. She's hilarious and mischievous and will battle to the literal death for your honor if she cares for you. But get on this girl's bad side, and you will think Satan himself has personally targeted you.
Kind of reminds me of a character from this one comic called Sandra and Wu. Continue.
Okay, and Lilith really didn't like Miss Piggy. It was only out of respect for me that she promised to restrain herself and continue to make an effort to be cordial. Cordial.
You had it correct the second time.
And let's just say the diplomacy was shaky.
I mean, with someone like that, I'm surprised you have the amount of control to have diplomacy with them at all. Seriously.
Yeah, I could not.
Yeah, seriously, Lilith, respect. If you're watching this, you're probably not. Whatever.
Yeah, you're probably not. Madam Macabre's probably not. I mean, why would she be? Then again, she did watch Fun with Failures reading of the first part, so I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Never know.
So it was after this dry spell of a little over a week with no communication since the puddle incident that I suddenly got a phone call. I didn't recognize the number, but it was local area code, and I was expecting some other calls that day, so I answered. But when the familiar husky voice on the other end of the line met my ears, I nearly hung up on the spot. Should have done so. Yeah. It was Wolfbeard. Restraining my shock and anger at him calling me despite having never given him my number, I allowed him to speak for a moment.
Oh boy. Hi, Calamity. Can we talk for a moment? He breathed into the receiver.
Oh no, just...
Calls like that. Yeah, imagine waking up, to your phone going off, picking it up, and all you hear on the other side is just before they hang up.
Yeah, just kind of hearing that, and I'd have probably a Liam Neeson moment. I will find you, and I will beat you senseless. Not kill you because that's illegal.
Yeah, I was just oh god, this is terrifying.
I'd be more angry than anything. But that's just me. Wolfbeard, how did you get my number? I questioned as calmly as I can manage.
Oh, Miss Piggy gave it to me. I needed to talk to you so I could apologize.
I was suspicious, but surprised nonetheless, so I allowed him to continue.
I've reflected on my behavior a lot lately and realized I treated you very badly. I really like you a lot and don't want to have destroyed our friendship.
Oh,
Can you really destroy what never existed?
Yeah, that too, but...
Would you please accept my apology and allow me to try to start over? I really want things to be good between Miss Piggy's friends and me.
I just continue disliking this guy more and more. Just saying.
Only untrusting, but yeah.
Yeah, anyway. He sounded genuinely sincere, and I was truly caught off guard. Of all my experience with neckbeard kind, I've never known owning up to their bad behavior and apologizing to be within their realm of understanding. It's not.
She has a point there. That would catch me off guard.
I still wouldn't buy it just because I trust those people as far as I can kick them.
Which is not very far.
And why try to kick them far when you can just kick them in the holes? I mean, seriously. And I still And I still did really want to make things good between us if Miss Piggy was truly set on marrying him. And if he was going to actually make a change and make an effort, I decided to give him a chance. I mean, okay, that just shows you're a good person. That's
your reason.
Yeah, that's really good, but I
however,
don't know,
am a bastard.
Me, it's like if someone had done something like that to me, I am quick to listen to someone's apology, but slow to forgive. I guess that's a flaw that I need to work on, but it's still.
So if someone had been sexually harassing and, based on what we've read a few times, sexually assaulting me, I don't think I could actually like.
Yeah, it's like,
I might
you could be
like follow it up with, but I never want to see you again.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like, thank you for owning up to your mistake. However, if you were on fire, I would not pee on you to put it out.
If you were on fire, I'd douse you in gasoline.
That works too.
All right.
Anyway.
Over the weeks that follow, he did actually make a change in his behavior. He had finally stopped making gross comments and had stopped trying to touch me as frequently. Mind you, he still had boundary issues and loomed far too close and still had a fear of deodorant, but things were much better. At least for a while.
Oh, and there's that foreshadowing statement. See, once I made the mistake of expressing an above-average interest in something in Wolfbeard's presence, said thing became his whole life. Said thing was a small band/group of performers called Steam Powered Giraffe. I think I've heard of them, actually.
If you like steampunk, you'll like them.
Okay. They have a fun, old-timey VOD. I think you showed me a couple of their songs, actually.
I don't think I showed... No, I showed you some Creature Features songs, but it's a whole thing of... like, whenever I do the daily mix, every now and then some of their songs pop up, and it's always just a nice little treat.
Oh, okay. They have a fun, old-timey vaudeville sound to their music, always good, and stick to this whole steampunk robotic theme. That sounds... Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen videos of them before at some point in time, but I'm not sure. All the band members/performers dress up in these intricate steampunk robot or mad scientist-type costumes and play characters. Oh my gosh, that sounds awesome.
Oh, yeah.
In between songs, they have little skits in character and interact with the audience. It's super fun because they highly encourage audience participation, as in they encourage them to create their own in-universe characters and show up to the events in costume and play along. I might have to see if they ever come to different places and might have to visit at one of these things. It sounds really awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's the whole thing. Like, if steampunk is something you have even a passing interest in, check them out. Like,
yeah, no, I'm writing a steampunk story at the moment. Yeah. I mean, I may or may not ever finish it, but I've got the outline for it.
I'm not a steampunk guy, but like even I'm like, I love these guys. Like horror and fantasy is more my aesthetic, but yeah.
Well, steampunk can do that too, but also you like creating characters based on some of the characters you've told me about. So that's probably where your appeal comes in.
True, yeah, that too.
It's a really fun and unique experience. And as I was already an avid cosplayer, it really appealed to me.
The topic came up during the group meeting. Oh, wait, were you going to say something?
No.
I had reluctantly agreed to go despite knowing Wolfbeard would be there because several other friends I didn't get to see often were going to be there, both of whom are super dear friends to me still to this day. The first was Doe, you guessed it, another D&D moniker.
Doe.
She had met Miss Piggy shortly after I moved away. She was friends through her middle school with her through middle school, began to distance herself a bit when Piggy met Wolfbeard in high school. However, it seemed she too had an interest in rekindling an old friendship, thus her appearance at the lunch meetup. Doe would also have the misfortune of later becoming roommates with Miss Piggy, but that's a whole different story. And perhaps I could convince her to share her own stories with you about that.
The other girl joining us was a friend I'll call Valor. Valor had no previous connections to Miss Piggy or Wolfbeard. She's someone I had met and befriended online before learning she was also a college student in the same state as me. Our schedules made it really hard to hang out often, so when I learned we were both free, I invited her to join the group outing. I thought it would be safe enough given Wolfbeard's recent attempts at adjusting his behavior and the sheer number of people in our group.
Let's just say that although Wolfbeard stayed true to his word about cutting back on the weird sexual comments, he found entirely new ways to make a whole room full of women uncomfortable. Without the exception of Miss Piggy, of course. I mean, with the exception of Miss Piggy, of course.
Yeah.
After the initial greeting, where Wolfbeard tried to force a stinking hug on each of the female guests in the group, he came upon Valor for the first time. Her saving grace was that she was already in a long-term relationship with her then girlfriend, now fiance. I think he realized that since this new milady was not only taken, but also taken by another milady, taken by another milady, meant she would take much more work to convince of his charms. So he spared her of his more aggressive courting in favor of the other single damsels in need of saving in the group.
Hey.
I can tell you from experience, sadly enough, lesbians are not safe from neckbeards.
Yeah, no, if anything, it might turn them on more, honestly.
Because these are the people that fetishize lesbians out of that vain hope that they'll someday end up in a three-way, despite the fact that it'll never happen.
Yeah. As I'm sure one can imagine by now, Wolfbeard was not an easy specimen to attempt to have a conversation around. He had a thing with needing to not only participate in every conversational topic that arose, I know people like that, but to domineer it. I know people like that, too.
Yep.
I can kind of be that way sometimes, and at least I notice it, and I usually stop myself.
I'm only that way when I get overly excited.
Yeah. Even if he had to make up some ridiculous story to do so. One of the ladies shares a story about the time they met Elijah Wood at the Space Needle restaurant, and he was nice enough to let her get a quick picture on her way out. Better
Nice.
one up it. Yes. Who could forget the time Wolfbeard ran into Morgan Freeman at a Barnes & Noble? Oh. Hold on a sec. Hey, I'm recording. What's up?
You gotta love that just over-the-top heat in this area. Christ. I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the one who walked 1,000 miles to end up at your door. Back? Yes, no. Oh. This is awkward. Oh, Christ. Oh, fuck. Oh, God. Like, anyone listening who does not live in, like, the fucking South, Jesus Christ. I envy you. Because, even more so because, to come right out, I live in fucking Texas, and the weather is schizophrenic. Until recently, until like maybe less than a month ago, we were still getting freezing temperatures at night. Like, middle of goddamn April, just mid-April, and suddenly, like, water would freeze. Like, it would just freeze overnight, and so it's a whole thing of, gotta make sure that the hose isn't connected, otherwise it might damage the pump. Christ. Oh, God, it's just... weather here is the worst. Because it is either ridiculously hot or ridiculously cold, and there is no in-between, and it's not even like we get snow. No, it freezes, and all you get is maybe some ice on the grass. If you're lucky enough to have grass, of course. Like weather in here is just absolutely fucking insane. Oh, God. So, I'm in my room. The AC doesn't quite reach my room, and I have my fan turned up all the way. And I am still sweating like crazy in here. Like, it is that ridiculous right now. Oh, God, it's just really not, it's not fun. Not at all. Like, And don't get me wrong, like other places, they have heat, and they have that whole thing where it's heat plus humidity, so they get like ridiculously muggy. And so it's that whole thing of even sweating can't help you. Like, you just end up, oh, back. So you just end up with that whole thing of you're just overheating, and there's no way for your body to cool itself down. And yeah, that sucks. That really fucking sucks. Like anytime I've been to Oklahoma or Wisconsin, like it is just the worst in summer. It's also the worst in Wisconsin during the summer because of the fact that that's also whenever the wood ticks are always out, and I'm one of those people that really likes to be around trees, and so I'll just be under a tree, and I come out, and I end up being done with that, and all of a sudden, hey, look, there's a tick on my neck. That always causes a little miniature freak out. I just pulled something out of me. They just nestle their face into your fucking skin, and it is the worst. Like, really? Okay. You think it might be a problem with your microphone? I'm getting it registering that, like, your voice is coming up, but I'm not hearing anything. Jesus.
Can you kind of hear me now?
I can kind of hear you, but the background noise is ridiculous.
Yeah, okay. I just unplugged my microphone. I'm gonna plug it back in and see if I can come back to it, and then if not, I don't know what the deal is.
All right. There once was a beard from the Northwest. Harassing women is what he did best. For this one little goth girl is what he lusted for, but because she wouldn't date him, he saw her as a whore. Fuck, I'm out of lyrics. I can't come up with any new rhymes.
Okay, is it working now?
I can hear you kind of, but you're a bit quiet.
Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can get my input volume up a bit.
All right.
Okay. So what happened was, it turns out when I left to hold on a sec. Okay. So talking. Am I still like too quiet, or?
No, you're all right. Let's see. Oh shit! I need a third line. I need well, technically fifth and sixth line.
Okay. Am I still too quiet, or what?
No,
what's
you're
the deal?
Good. You're good. You're good now.
Okay. I don't know what the deal was, but turns out I had accidentally turned the microphone receiving thing off on my little cord, because there's like a thing that controls the volume in the headset. And yeah, I am recording with a gaming headset for all of you who don't know, just because this will probably get cut out, but whatever. Okay.
I don't know. I had a whole diatribe on how weather in this area sucks.
Yeah, I know. I heard most of that. It was pretty funny, and I was commenting, not realizing that my mic wasn't working, and then I was like, wait, he's acting like he can't hear me. Am I coming through? And I was like,
time I was having this diatribe, and you were commenting in, and
it just wasn't coming through. For the record, I actually like Texas, regardless of how much the weather changes. But then again, I guess I appreciate it more because I lived in a different state that was so different, and I didn't like it at all. But then again, that's just me. Anyway, I've read this line once before, but I'll read it again. Ah, yes, who could forget the time Wolfbeard ran into Morgan Freeman at a Barnes & Noble? You know, the time that really actually truly happened, and they spoke for over an hour, and Wolfbeard taught Mr. Freeman a whole new stance in philosophy, and in thanks, he swore he'd never forget Wolfbeard.
I'll never forget you, Wolfbeard.
I express an interest in singing and songwriting as a hobby. Oh, you better believe Wolfbeard was offered a contract with Universal Records for his heavenly voice, but it wasn't his dream, so he turned them down. I could go on for hours, but this story is already getting long, and I haven't even started with the main events.
I'm just imagining him singing, but with like the Wolfbeard, with the neckbeard voice we gave him.
How would that go? Don't try it. Please don't.
I was about to try and start singing 500 miles again because that was one of the things I was doing while waiting. But
yeah, I heard. I caught the tail end of that. That was a very good cover. You did the instrumental parts too. That was impressive. Anyway,
well, that wasn't instrumental. That was literally just them going. Oh
yeah. Yeah, but I recognized that it was 500 miles even when you didn't say so, and I just kind of came into the ba-da-da, ba-da-da. Okay. Anyway,
Wolfbeard was the truest example of a pathological liar that I had ever, and to this day, have ever met. I almost said seen, and I kind of combined them into smet. I suppose trying to convince me that he was a literal werewolf should have been a warning sign to this, but I digress. He could weave these insanely intricate stories almost impromptu, and these weren't short little blurbs. They were short little He'd craft a story that was 5+ minutes long as naturally as one breathes.
Oh man, he'd do awesome in improv, like seriously.
But the question is, would improv be good?
Yeah, good point.
This harlot won't go out with me. Oh.
You know, if he became like aware of how just cringy and wrong his behavior was, and figured out
played into the character,
yeah, and like, oh, I should probably become a better person, and then got into like improv and stuff, and just told of stories like of really cringy interactions. I mean, he could do well for himself.
Making fun of the stereotype.
Yeah, and that would be great, but no, he's probably too dumb to see past his own nose.
A rose from Our Lady. I did an apostrophe it. I probably should have.
Yeah.
I struggled just lying well enough to not spoil surprises for my friends. So I can't even imagine the process he had going on in his brain, to be honest.
You know, good way to not lie but keep things from people. Just don't say anything.
Information.
I mean, when it comes to me, I'm usually just silent.
What are you talking about?
Anyway.
Definitely not the super awesome party we have planned for you in a couple days. Oh, shit.
Anyway. Well, after dealing with Wolfbeard butting into our conversations for the last 30 minutes, Doe, Valor, and I shifted our body language a tad from to form a bit of a circle, effectively closing Wolfbeard off before beginning a new topic we assumed he wouldn't know anything about. The small band I mentioned before. The three of us were really having fun with it and had decided to make some steampunk robot costumes of our own to wear to an upcoming concert. Nice. We then talked about the band. The band a little more and agreed on a mutual favorite robot. The one called the Spine, basically a 6-foot+ silver and black robot with big battle spines jutting out of his back in a swanky, roaring 20s inspired get up. Oh, yeah. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
He has this super smooth, deep voice that tends to catch the attention of a lot of the lady fans. Plus, he plays for the exacerbated straight men to the group of otherwise goofy and hyperactive characters, and that's a trope I live for. Huh, yeah. He sounds like a cool version of me.
Is there such a thing as a cool version of you?
Probably not.
Sensing the miladies were taking interest in another male, even an entirely fictional android one that was just a stage act, was unacceptable, and he had to move with haste before he lost us entirely to the wicked robot overlords. You see, I was foolish assuming he wouldn't have known who the band was. I had been posting about them occasionally on my various social media accounts because I was excited about the upcoming concert. And I should really have expected Wolfbeard Oh, shit. And should I really have expected Wolfbeard to not be stalking every account I own that wasn't strictly private? Oh, no. He knew exactly who they were, and had apparently dug through every piece of media he could get his hands on regarding them in an attempt to woo me with his knowledge of my interest.
That's not how you...
It's not how you fan?
bond. No, that's not how you get
bond.
someone to... Yeah. That's not how you get someone to fall for you. You bond over mutual interests.
Just be a good, likable person.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what helps? Not having a shit personality and shit hygiene.
Or having a decent, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, or having a decent personal hygiene code.
Yeah, like not having shit hygiene. Because you know the whole thing? I have met people with this kind, like the neckbeard build, that have gotten dates and are in mutually happy relationships because they have they have likable personalities.
Yeah, you don't have to be just the classic, neckbeard, all women are property or things for me to be one, to do things like that. The friend I mentioned before, who's kind of overweight and considers himself kind of that guy in a neckbeard, he's intelligent and he's a lot nicer than he thinks he is. And
it's the whole thing of, in order to be likable, the main thing you need is a likable personality. In order to get dates, you need a likable personality, and that's the main thing. Now, the other stuff, being attractive, having money, all that shit, that's all tertiary. That stuff isn't a requirement. You just have to be a good person, and
everything else is just icing on the cake.
Yeah. It's what about that do these people not understand?
Probably everything that we just said.
God.
You feel really passionately about these kind of people, don't you?
It's the whole thing of, I cannot stand people. Like, for one, I cannot stand people who just do this whole like grand objectifying thing in the first place.
Well, yeah, it's wrong.
And when you throw that in with this sort of entitlement that completely juxtaposes like anything about them.
Yeah. Yeah, no. You don't the world doesn't owe you anything.
No, it doesn't. It fucking doesn't.
Mm-hmm. All right. Continue.
So you better believe he had to jut into the conversation right at that very moment, breaking out his handy dandy fake effeminate voice once more.
Now I'll have to break out my handy dandy Z-snap.
Oh, God.
That spine is just so sexy. He barked loudly across the table, snapping his fingers in a zigzag motion, attracting looks from the surrounding tables. Oh man.
That hard? Just like, yeah, that dude's attractive. In fact, it's not even like they were bringing up. It doesn't even say that they were like bringing up the fact that he was attractive. No, it was just, no, that dude's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he sounds awesome. A battle bot that has spikes, that's pretty cool.
And also does the whole straight man role. Like, he is absolutely hilarious, like, listening to the songs, because it's just like not dealing with any of that shit. Then straightened his back up and brought a hand to his chest, gripping an invisible tie in attempts to mimic the spine's signature pose, turning his head slightly to the right, striking an eerie grin and pulling his golf hat lower to try and cast a shadow over his eyes, similar to how the spine's fedora did. Yeah, the spine legit wore a fedora, but believe it or not, when you get a well-fitted one with a wide enough brim that doesn't make you look like a fat head with a baby hat, and you pair it with a masterfully tailored suit and vest rather than repulsive, it actually does magical things. But it's
not the fedora though. It's everything working in tandem.
Yeah, it's everything working in tandem, and the people, like the fucking people who go around in fedoras, don't understand how outfits work.
Yeah, heck, I wear Crocs, and even I know their outfits don't work.
It's a fucking crime against fashion.
Yeah.
But that pitiful golf hat and ill-fitted trench coat decidedly didn't. Not to mention his charming grin that made the whole picture look quite deranged.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
If that wasn't bad enough, he then switched from the effeminate voice to as deep as he could force himself. Oh no. Trying his damnedest to mimic the robot's smooth voice and mannerisms. I don't really like to use the word cringy to describe things, but there's really no other way to describe the immense discomfort in this absurd behavior gave us. I'm recording.
Which was like the weirdest moment.
Hang on a sec.
Oh my god.
They're family things.
Okay, let's see. What do we have so far? There once was a beard from the Pacific Northwest. Sexually harassing women was what he did best. A cute goth girl was who he lusted for, but since she didn't want him, she was surely a whore. He clad himself in a greasy hat of golf. Oh, fuck, you can't rhyme golf with wolf. Fuck.
Okay, sorry about that. Just had to have a conversation. What now?
Need a rhyme for wolf.
Okay. What's worse is that he continued to talk in this voice for the rest of the meal, as well as every other time I saw him for the next few weeks. Oh. No, that does not sound no. Okay.
Dictionary.
He also didn't stop mimicking body posture and mannerisms as well. I guess being a werewolf wasn't cool enough for him anymore. Now he wanted to identify as an android. You know, sometimes I wish I could be a robot to cast off the weakness of human emotion, but those are usually fleeting and passing moments of weakness.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I was looking up some, rhyming dictionaries. Okay, let's see.
What were you doing when I was talking with my sister?
Trying to find a rhyme for wolf.
Oh, that's actually a tough one.
The moment I tried to do golf, I was gonna say clad in a greasy hat of golf, this poor man thought himself a werewolf.
Hey, that works.
That's a forced rhyme.
All right.
I'm going to write an entire limerick about Wolfbeard.
Well, everyone takes their inspiration from somewhere. Some are deep emotional things that they need to just kind of get off their chest. Others are just horrible people that are written about on Reddit. I mean, they each their own.
The moment he insinuated how he'd like to go to the concert and chaperone the lovely miladies, he quickly changed the topic and shortly after discussed the lunch and fled. Finished the lunch and fled.
Yes, I would have too.
A few days later, I wound up back at Miss Piggy's apartment to hang out with her and Doe. Doe and I got to chatting about the progress of our costumes. I'm a bit of a seamstress and love making crazy costumes.
That's awesome.
For my robot, I did this Victorian bustle skirt. You know, the ones that made women look like they had massive rears because of all the ruffles and the literal pillows you tie above your butt?
Reminds me of a Disney cartoon.
God. That was above knee length. That was knee length in the front and floor length in the back. It was a huge effort and cost way more than I wanted to spend in material, but it was coming along nicely and had been ready and would be ready in time for the show. I was exhausted from working on it and just barely had enough time to balance it between classes.
Yeah, no, going full on steampunk stuff, that can take a lot of work.
That shit's expensive.
Yeah, that too. And I bet she's using real leather too when it comes to different things, which is very expensive for some reason.
Yeah. It's also uncomfortable.
I wouldn't know. I don't wear leather.
Okay.
Well, little did Doe and I know, Wolfbeard had been lurking in the back bedroom. Just lurking in the back bedroom. I just imagine it
these two beady eyes, backlit, in the darkness.
I just imagine these two huge pudgy hands on the side of a closet door with one with half of his face framing out with this one piggy looking eye just kind of looking
every now and then you
shadow of his golf hat.
Every now and then you just hear really softly.
Oh.
Oh God. Oh God.
Yeah, I did that too well, and that disturbed me as well. Okay. Oh, we had been under the impression that he was napping, but I guess he had just been lying there in the dark, listening in on us chatting. Because no sooner did I finish talking about my costume and asking Doe how hers was going, Wolfbeard appeared in the living room and answered in her place, as if the question had been for him.
I'd love to do some. Oh God, yeah. I'd love to do something Phantom of the Opera styled.
No, that's so overdone. Why?
Phantom of the Opera is fucking edge bait.
And it's stupid too. Like, the music isn't even good. It's Wagner.
The cinematic version is. The theatrical version is all right, but
it's Wagner, so the music isn't the best it could be. But yeah.
My robot is dark and brooding, because of course it is. And along with having the most beautiful singing voice, he also plays the organ skillfully.
Organ?
He was supposed to be in the band originally.
OC material.
And his broken heart made him malfunction too frequently. So he was stored up in the attic. He finished dramatically, still using that stupid attempt at a deep voice, mind you. All right. Okay. You write Ruby fan fiction, right?
Yes, I do. I take pride in it because I think it's pretty good.
At any point do you ever do a whole thing in which, oh yeah, this OC is associated with the main cast?
Just one, but that was more of a thought process than anything, and I don't think he's probably going to be the main part of it. And that was mostly just kind of a thought experiment. And again, he's probably not going to play a major part in the story. But yeah, it didn't really work out just because, well, that approached some parts of the self-insert fiction kind of stuff and everything. Well, you know what? I'll just say it how it is. Basically, he was the prototype created before Penny was created. And
oh God, yeah, no wonder. Yeah, oh God.
Yeah, I scrapped the idea. Well, I like the idea of an artificial human. There can only be one, and that is Penny. So, yeah, she's like the Highlander. There can only be one.
But yeah, that's the whole thing. The golden rule for OC making in someone else's universe is you do not make it to where there's someone who will be associated with the main cast.
Yeah, you see, in the main one that I'm working on, it's like it happens like 3 years before the main cast come to Beacon. And it's like just kind of new students and everything. So everything is still a little difficult, but it's not like to the tipping point just yet. It's going to be like a normal school year. And yes, there are going to be
just telling a story that takes place in the same universe, but with no actual full association with the actual canon.
Yes, I mean there's going to be a little bit of association, but just because it makes a little bit more sense, like
just because of like the school staff and shit.
Yeah, and like the because like one of the things is like one of the main teams I have, they because they're there 3 years before Ruby was, they're like 1 year the elder of Team Coffee, like during the time that Ruby takes place. And so they do take special assignments from Ozpin every now and then for like kind of observation and stuff like that. But it's nothing like major.
That's the golden rule when it comes to OC making is you do not do that shit. That and don't give them a mask.
Yeah. And again, it's not going to be anything major. It's just like, okay, there were some Grimm sighted in this area, go there. And it's like Ozpin giving them the task rather than like him like saying, oh, I have a secret mission that only you guys can do because you're the main characters in this story, because that's just bad writing.
And then they ran into Team Ruby and they hung out and Team Ruby was talking about how awesome they were and everything was great.
Yeah, no, if anything, the only mention is going to be, the only mention of Team Ruby is going to be this up-and-coming freshman class who are very good at what they do. And it's going to be more along the lines like, yeah, this year's class is probably the most promising we've ever seen. And then everything goes to crap because that's when Beacon gets sacked. Spoilers for anyone who isn't caught up with Ruby.
Wait for that. But yeah, that's the whole thing. You do, like, when you do OCs, you do not make it to where they were supposed to be integral to the main cast or whatever. Like, you do not pull this shit.
Yeah. Unless you want to like keep it like as private stuff, and even then, just that's pushing it a little.
That's your private fan fiction. That's like.
Yeah, well, whatever. Leave it for your lucid dreaming.
That's one. But yeah, that's that shit that you don't pull, and that pisses me off so much. Anyway, anyway.
My turn. Miss Piggy. Miss Piggy clasped her heart and sighed at him sadly. But Doe and I just gave each other a "can you believe this shit" look. I mean, out of two, honestly. Feeling particularly adventurous that day, I ventured to interact.
I don't think I would have given him just a look. I would have probably either said, "Fuck you," or I would have just just stared daggers at him.
I would have like stared at him and said in the most condescending voice, nice story. When did you come up with that? Yesterday?
Nice story. So you like that in your like 9 year like freshman year diary or some shit?
Yeah, seriously. Anyway.
God. That's a lovely story for your character, Wolfbeard. Oh wait, shit, no. Whoop.
What are you doing?
I thought it was Miss Piggy speaking for a moment.
Oh,
shit.
okay.
Sorry. That's a lovely backstory for your character, Wolfbeard, but theatrical costuming is something that will probably take a while. Are you sure you'll have time to sew it? I asked, raising an eyebrow at the idea of him squeezing in front of a sewing machine and flinging it off the table in a fit of werewolf rage when it got snagged.
Oh, well, I was actually hoping that you'd make it for me since you're so good at sewing.
He responded without missing a beat. No.
Fuck you.
Your line.
Yeah, no. I just take a breath. Like this pissed me off. I don't even ask for close friends to make me cosplay supplies because I don't want to impose on them.
Yeah. Breathe, Llytic.
Yeah. You could take my materials now if you like, and the fabric store should be open until 9 tonight, so you'll have time to get the materials. I'd like it to be made something rich, like satin or velvet, but you can buy whatever you prefer.
Screw you, man.
Fuck
like,
you.
Seriously. No. You're just... I'm assuming her reaction is going to be the same, much of the same as ours is.
No, she's far more composed.
I sat silently and blinking for a moment. So this freaking boob wanted me to not only spend hours slaving away making a costume for him when I wasn't even done with my own, and on top of it all, he wanted me to pay for it out of my own pocket. Doe's eyes were the size of dinner plates, and her mouth hung ajar in shock. I had to take a stabilizing breath to remain calm before responding.
I'm sorry, Wolfbeard, but I can't make your costume for you. I'm not even done with mine yet, and I certainly wouldn't have time for another, let alone something that complicated. Plus, I really can't afford that.
His body sagged and his face drooped in sadness. He was legitimately upset that I turned down his demands. Then, as sadly as he could muster, as if trying to guilt me into changing my mind, he continued, That's all right, Calamity. I understand. I'll make it myself then. I am a world-class tailor in my own right, after all. You know, if he's trying to be sad, he shouldn't sound so pathetic.
I wanted to scream. Then why did you ask me to make it for you in the first place?
I probably would have screamed that.
I knew he was just lying again, so I held it in. Deep breaths.
Hey, let's see here.
More time passed.
Where were we? I lost track.
Time passed.
Okay, there we go. More time passed, and suddenly it was just days before the concert. Doe, unfortunately, wasn't going to be able to make it due to work and school, and robots were never really Lilith's thing, so she opted to pass. But Valor and I were hyped and ready to go. The band was doing 2 shows, one Friday and one Saturday. Valor and I opted for the Saturday showing because that was the only day the band was also doing meet and greets / photos, and we had bought that package. I was happily finishing the last little details of my costume when I got a text on my phone. Looking down, I realized it was from Wolfbeard, who still had my number, sadly, thanks to Miss Piggy. Just block him. Like, seriously.
Yeah. He informed me he had just managed to get some time off from work and buy his tickets for the show and couldn't wait to see me and Valor there. My heart turned to lead. He sent another message after that.
Yeah, here we go. See you Friday.
See you Friday.
Winky face. Oh, I don't. As a rule, I rarely, if ever, use emojis like at all. Like sometimes, like with my mom goes, "Love you," and I'll say, "Love you too." I'll put a little heart, but I mean that's about it.
Yeah, but this is a creep who's trying to get in someone else's pants.
Yeah, no, like I'm surprised you didn't send like an eggplant emoji. Like, ugh.
Oh God. See you Friday, eggplant. Suddenly, my heart somersaulted back upwards. I had never made any social media posts about which day I was going, and he had assumed the wrong day. With a smile plastered on my face, I pulled out all of my fake sympathy as I responded, "Oh, we'll have fun at the show, but I'm going to be there on Saturday. I have tickets for the meet and greet, so Valor and I won't be going on Friday. Sad face."
Ironically, sad face, probably.
Yes,
nope, not probably. It was ironic.
Face. It was a fake sad face.
Yes. There was a brief moment of silence before he responded again.
The meet and greet is on Friday. I just saw that they changed it on their Facebook. Better go buy a Friday ticket before they run out.
I wanted to beat my head on a wall. This damn fool was at it again. This damn lying fool was at it again. I looked down at my tickets in hand that clearly stated Saturday, and for good measure, checked the band's Facebook page. No post announcing a day change. Feeling a little aggravated at Wolfbeard's attempt to deceive me, I shot back.
My meet and greet tickets say Saturday, and there's no such post.
The post was just there. They must have taken it down.
Wolfbeard quickly fired back, seemingly not prepared for me to see through his hastily brought up lie.
I thought the shame of being cornered in a lie would have been enough to deter him for a while, but once again I underestimated the determination of our bionic wolf. Saturday rolled around, as did he.
Boy.
Saturday rolled around and Valor and I had a blast. We got into our costumes and met up with some folks for dinner before the show. The place was sort of a geek-themed tavern, and it was full of other concert attendees in costumes, so we really didn't stand out. All in all, it was a fantastic evening. Things were amazing until we arrived at the venue. Dude, I wish there were geek-themed taverns around here.
That would be awesome. Like, I'm sure there are probably some like in Lubbock or something, but
maybe. I don't know. But also, going to Lubbock, you have to pass by that weird statue of Jesus in a box.
Wait, what?
Going from this area to Lubbock, there is this giant glass box with a crucified statue of Jesus in it, and it is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen. I
might have to go see that and take a picture of it, just because that sounds so weird.
I passed by that on the way to LubbockCon one time, and I just saw that, and I was like, what the fuck?
I'm gonna take a selfie with Jesus.
What the hell is the real billboard was weird. It is, but
have you seen like those truth posters or whatever that are like fear-mongering the worst kind of Christianity?
Are we talking about the ones that are saying that evolution is a lie? Because I think one of the biggest billboards in this area says that. It's like,
well, I mean, it might have said that at one point in time, but there's one that changes, and there was one that said, "If you died tonight, what would happen? Call 1-800-TRUTH now." It's like, okay, guys, that's not how you convert people to Christianity. That's what turns most people off about it. Like,
you
seriously.
Up on Haley's Comet, it turns out, in fact, that the billboard was put up by fuck, that one cult. It was like Eden something.
I don't know. We'll see.
That's the one I'm talking about, right?
Where were we? The meet and greet was happening before the show, and we got to stand in a special line to get in early to take our photos and get our seats. Valor and I were fairly far up the line, chatting with some nice people we met when I suddenly felt a large, moist hand grip my shoulder from behind. I nearly screamed.
It's gonna stain the costume.
I nearly screamed before turning around to see none other than Wolfbeard.
He was standing there in his wolf tee, fingerless gloves, and infamous golf hat with a huge grin pasted on his face.
Oh.
I only do fingerless gloves for cosplay.
Like, seriously, don't wear that for like just plain like wearing things sake. That's just
that one phase where I was purposely dressing like a homeless person, but that's another thing.
I mean, if you got like fingerless weightlifting gloves, then you can wear them at the gym. But like, don't wear it as a fashion statement. It's not a statement. It's just
I had some old like fabric ones that were like fraying and shit, so there'd be like holes in them, and I thought that was actually kind of an interesting aesthetic. But
no, that I like that. I like that if it looks like old and tattered, and you're not trying to make a statement. You're just like, oh, this is just a part of my look. That's fine.
It's a decayed aesthetic. Yeah. I was shocked and horrified to see him there. The weight in my stomach dropped further when he proceeded to pick up the dumb mimicking gestures and voice again in the company of our new friends, no less.
No.
It's great to see you here, Calamity. I decided to buy a ticket for Saturday as well because I really wanted a photo with the band.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, sure. It's totally got nothing to do with making sure you got to come at the same day as me, despite having already bought a ticket for a different night.
The fact that he was badly mimicking a band member in front of countless fans of said band who could clearly tell what he was doing just made it exponentially worse. Trying to keep from going on too much of a roll, I changed the subject. So where's your costume, Wolfbeard? I thought
that's
you were
my line.
Oh, crap. I'm sorry.
So, where's your costume, Wolfbeard? I thought you said you were a world-class tailor.
Oh, boy. Here comes the lies. His gaze dropped to the street below, his mind clearly buzzing to make up some ridiculous grand story. And he certainly didn't disappoint. I kid you guys not. Valor can attest to this. He looked me dead in the eye and said,
"Oh, boy. I had nearly completed my masterpiece when the most horrible thing happened. I was using my mother's old sewing machine, and on the last seam, the machine broke and caught on fire. It destroyed my entire costume, and I simply didn't have the time to craft up another one."
This dude, compulsive lying is a bad thing. It's like you need to get help, man. Like, seriously, on multiple levels. Like, dude. Well, I mean, she kind of voices my same thing here.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I lost my place for a sec.
Like, dude, what the hell?
Here we go. Yeah, there it is. Like, dude, what the hell? How was it easier to literally craft up some fairy tale about your sewing machine spontaneously combusting than to just tell the truth and you don't actually know how to sew? Well, that would be admitting that he has some flaws, which he is not willing to admit at all. Yeah. Yeah, I would have had way more respect for that and might have even encouraged you. But instead, we're fed this wild woven fantasy and expected to believe it. To this day, now whenever my friends or I procrastinate on something and the other asks us about it, we answer by saying it was almost done, but it caught on fire, so I've got to start over.
Just start now because that is amazing.
Yeah, I might start using that just because.
I might start using that whenever I turn in a paper late.
Yeah, it caught on fire.
Sorry, Professor, it caught fire.
Yeah, sorry, Professor.
You had to email this to me. It caught fire.
My computer caught fire, and I had to buy another one.
Text document caught fire. Just the document.
Yeah, there was like this weird like digital fire that was inside the screen, and it was like I don't know what happened, but I saw like some eyes afterwards, and then like 3 6s or something. I don't know, and then it just disappeared, and I couldn't recover it.
Microsoft Word caught fire.
Wouldn't surprise me.
So at this point, I noticed Wolfbeard trying to osmosis his way into the circle my friends had formed in the line. He comments on how excited he is to take a picture with the band with Valor and I. All the while, everyone in the group is eyeing me uncomfortably, so I speak before he could cement his position.
Sorry, Wolfbeard. Valor and I just want a photo with the two of us since we're in costume. Also, you probably shouldn't cut in line. People have been here for almost an hour waiting, and it wouldn't really be fair.
Oh yeah, nice save. He looked wounded by my words, and doubly so when he saw Valor and our new friends nodding in agreement. Perhaps the biggest blow, however, was that two of our new friends were tall, rather cute twin guys dressed as matching robots. Nice. Once again, those damned robot overlords were robbing him of what was rightfully his.
The entitled son of a bitch.
Sorry, but if you manage to not only find cute twins like at a convention, but cute twins doing matching cosplay,
yeah,
oh
no.
my God.
If it's two guys doing that, hey, respect, man. Like seriously, I would like to hang out with you. If it's two girls, I'm gonna have to change my pants.
God damn it! God damn it!
Yeah, that sounded kind of
that was
bad.
Tasteless.
That
was bad. That was bad.
I apologize for that. I don't know. Okay, I'll take that. I will agree with your stance and quit while I'm ahead. I tend to have the disease of opening my mouth and inserting my foot and not thinking before I speak. I apologize once again for that. Again, I'm just kind of saying whatever comes to my mind because I am really enjoying this writing. Like, it is so good and I love it. Okay. Dejectedly, he dropped his head and slank to the back of the line. I think it's slunk, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm gonna overlook that because this is so well written. For the next 30 minutes while we waited for them to let us in, I could feel an intense set of eyes sinking into me from the back of the line. The few times I dared steal a glance from the side of my eyes, I spotted Wolfbeard staring almost unblinkingly and intensely at me. Okay, that's creepy.
Ew.
Sensing my apparent distress, the twins kindly offered to let Valor and I go in front of them in line, and they stood shoulder to shoulder, blocking us from view.
Nice.
I
want to meet these twins.
Yeah, these guys seem like actual nice guys, like not the art cool. Nice guys. Yeah, they seem cool. Seriously.
From there, we got a brief reprieve. We had our meet and greet in peace and hit it off with the band. So, well, they took 3 different pictures with us instead of just the one with the just the one that the ticket was supposed to cover.
That's just a statement on how well you did your costume. Just gonna say that right now.
Oh yeah, I've seen other pictures of her cosplays, and they are top quality. Like, goddamn, like I am envious.
I might have to look these up at some point in time.
Let's see. They even complimented the handiwork of my costume, which just tickled me pink. They were all really sweet and genuine people, and it just made me like the group all that much more. Yet nothing's better than not only meeting your hero, but finding out that your hero is genuinely cool.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the greatest things about different things. Like I went to see Rammstein in concert, one of my favorite bands like of all times, and just their stage presence and the way they finished it off. He said, the guy goes, it was in the Starplex Center in Dallas in the middle of the summer, so it was hot and they had a lot of pyrotechnics going on. So yeah, they were pretty burned up. Yeah. But Till Lindemann, I believe, is the lead singer. His last words to everyone was, "Damn, it's hot in here. Thank you guys so much. We love all of you. We hope you have a good rest of your day." And then he left, and it was great.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. It wasn't until Valor and I were on our way out to find our seats that we spotted Wolfbeard making his way up to the stage for his meet and greet. He locked eyes with us and then did this stupid strut thing up to the stage that I imagine he thought made him look like a rock star.
Oh boy. Here we go. This is going to be awkward. It's going to make my eyes bleed, probably. Valor and I could have fled, but a morbid curiosity left us glued in place, watching. And boy, did he give us a show. To this day, I still feel so bad for David, the man who plays the spine. If by happen chance you ever read this, please know that I am in no way affiliated with Wolfbeard, and I apologize sincerely for his behavior to you.
You see, the first thing Wolfbeard does upon reaching the band on the stage is head straight for the spine. He ignores the hand he had stretched out for a friendly shake and instead envelops him in the crushing hug I knew and dreaded so. Don't! You're going to fuck up the costume.
No, just...
Oh, God.
You don't do that to people you just met. I mean, kids can do that, but they have an excuse. They're kids and they don't know any better.
After that, his assault was still not finished. He proceeded to rub his greasy hands all over the man's abdominal region and in the creepiest voiceover make an overly sexual moan.
Oh, no.
He then loudly announced,
You must have titanium under there.
And cackled wildly at his own perceived cleverness. There's always one in every crowd. Even through the intense theatrical robot makeup Spine was wearing, you could read true fear on his face. It was in his eyes, despite the shaky smile he managed to keep on his lips. Oh, that poor guy.
Tips to David. Tips to David for not losing his cool. Not losing his composure.
Yeah, no, they're not performers for a reason. They've probably got to deal with at least one of them every tour.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's
the one reason I respect all performers, no matter who they are, from Justin Bieber to Rammstein, is dealing with overly attached fans who think they're gonna be your husband or wife or whatever, and just are overly
entitled fans. Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, even Justin Bieber, I'm sure he's able to handle them with at least some tact, but it just anything. Yeah. Anyway,
the reason I'm sorry for people in any of the J-pop and K-pop scene, because Jesus fuck, they cannot go anywhere in public without them being just crowded, swarmed.
Yeah. Even through the intense theatrical robot makeup, the whole ordeal hurt to watch. When it came time to take his photo, he then looped a sweaty arm over the Spine's shoulder, forcing him to smell the unimaginable horrors of his pits. Oh no.
Smelled how Cthulhu looks.
And pulled him in close. He did another one of those moans and then stretched out the arm that wasn't around Spine's shoulder and pointed at the camera with a handgun gesture. No. No.
Oh my God.
Valor and I hit our cringe limit and had to flee at this point before Wolfbeard could have a chance to catch up to us on our way to our seats. Thank God it was assigned seating. Oh, yeah, no, the good Lord was watching over you that night, ma'am.
Jesus Christ.
Oh.
The rest of the night was good and the concert was fantastic, but it still pings an uncomfortable secondhand embarrassment nerve in my stomach when I think back to that meet and greet. The whole thing left me mortified, and I couldn't bring myself to go back to Miss Piggy's for a while after that. And the thought of having to come face to face with Wolfbeard again after all that was just too much. Yeah,
no, I don't think I ever would have gone back to that person's place anyway.
If I knew anyone who pulled that kind of shit, I might cut off ties.
Yeah, no, I'd punch them in the throat.
Jesus, that's a bit far.
No, I wouldn't go that far. I'm not as insane as I see myself doing. I would want to. I would mentally punch them in the throat, but I wouldn't physically do that. But yeah, I'd probably cut ties with them as well, just like you said.
Jesus.
However, while I was away, our ambitious Robo-Wolf was hard at work scheming. Oh no. Even after everything up to that point, he still had not processed the fact that I wasn't interested. Those are the worst kind of guys, man.
Yes.
And had no plans of giving up on me. And since aggressively sexual comments and mimicking a character I was fond of didn't do the trick, he had one more trick up his sleeve. Now would be the time to pull out all the stops and try his hand at blatant puppet mastering of mutual friends and emotional manipulation. But that's the story I'll have to get into next time.
Oh boy.
Right.
All right.
We've been at this for almost an hour and a half. You want to cut off this episode and finish off the next one?
I kind of want to just finish this off because I want to get the closure.
Let's try to keep the commentary at a minimum, and well, this one's a little bit longer, but I think we could. Oh man, this is quite a bit longer. Okay, let's try to keep the commentary at a minimum so this doesn't take too terribly long, because this is already going to be a longer than average video. Even with all the stuff that you're going to be cutting out.
Wolfbeard 4, Siren of the Lake. Welcome back, friends. By now we're getting into the swing of things. As usual, when we last left off, Wolfbeard had once again managed to further disgust me and push me farther away than ever, thanks to his horrendous behavior. You know, trying to literally become a favorite character of mine to woo me, and then nearly sexually harassing said character at a meet and greet. The usual.
Just
come on.
Yeah, no, that whole thing is just ridiculous. Some time had passed, and due to more discomfort than ever, I didn't go anywhere near Miss Piggy's place to avoid interacting with the relentless Beard. It was a particularly beautiful summer, and I was out enjoying time with Valor, Doe, and Lilith. We bought some river lounging tubes and loaded up into one of our cars and would drive out to various lakes and rivers for the day. It was shaping up to be just the summer I needed to deal with what I knew would be a particularly hellish fall quarter, given I was about to start my major capstone project. Oh, lordy. I very much do not envy you that position.
However, little did I know, darker plans were being orchestrated behind my back at the hands of our golf hat donning puppet master. You see, despite the bad foot he had gotten himself off onto with Lilith from our first meeting, he had managed to worm his way back in, much like he had with me upon his initial apology. Once again, Miss Piggy had handed over the phone number, or at least that's what Wolfbeard told Lilith, which only made her dislike for Miss Piggy grow. He admitted later that he had gone through her phone to read her message history with me and saw the number for Lilith there when I was initially setting up our meetup weeks back.
Well, at least he admitted that.
Admitted to doing something absolutely reprehensible.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I'm trying to find some glimmer of hope in this man, but I don't think there is any.
I don't have any.
This man thing. Lilith naturally started on the offensive, but after his countless apologies and a lengthy handcrafted tragic backstory, Lilith softened toward him. See, Lilith really likes to try to help people fix themselves. That is always set up for disappointment, and just letting you know
that's never a good idea, but
I mean, you can't help empathy, but yeah. She's been through hell growing up, and as a result is extremely empathetic with people also going through rough things, even if they're entirely fabricated for pity. She's even working to get her certification to be a counselor now. Good for her. That is awesome. Like, I'm not being sarcastic at all. That is awesome. Like, seriously, we need more good counselors out there.
Yeah.
She just wants to make a difference for people who are in pain, and boy, did Wolfbeard sense this trait and work it as hard as he possibly could.
Yep.
Feeling bad for him, Lilith began chatting with him regularly, unbeknownst to me. This had been going on all the time I had been avoiding Miss Piggy's.
Wolfbeard told Lilith of his abusive upbringing and neglectful parents. The same parents who dote on him like Augustus Gloop, coddling and praising every action, showering him with gifts and affection every waking moment I ever saw them. Yeah, I ended up over at Wolfbeard's parents' house with Miss Piggy when I was drug over there for his birthday one year. I'll tell you about that later. Anyway, this news of his tragic upbringing truly was news to anyone else who ever knew him. As before Lilith, he would do nothing but brag about his wealthy parents that he had wrapped around his fingers.
Don't use your parents, man. Like, seriously, you can dislike your parents, you can not get along with them, but don't disrespect them. Like,
if they're abusive assholes.
Well,
if they are legitimately abusive assholes.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, then you need to get as far away from them as possible. But if they're decent, if they're good people to just not so good but trying to be good people, just give them a little bit of respect, man. I mean, come on, they like it or not, they helped mold who you are. So yeah. Anyways, so despite being brought up in an abusive home, Wolfbeard also brought out the big guns. This is the single declaration and accusation that sent shockwaves rippling through our friend group over the next year. Wolfbeard had confessed to Lilith that he had been in love with me from the moment he had first laid eyes on me. Oh no. And that he didn't want to marry Miss Piggy. He claimed that he was trapped in an unhealthy relationship with her and that she wouldn't let him leave.
Now, to be fair and truthful, he was not entirely dishonest in this regard. As I would later learn, Wolfbeard and Miss Piggy were indeed in a very unhealthy relationship, and she had her claws sunken into him. To be blatantly honest, I was disgusted and mortified by some of the things I learned that Miss Piggy had been doing. But that aside, Wolfbeard wasn't the sole victim. They were mutually abusive and equally selfish with one another. I suppose I can fully enlighten you on that madness when I give Miss Piggy her own feature story, but for the sake of this current one, that's more than enough to go on.
Now, this was the tipping point for Lilith. She went from disliking and wanting to avoid Miss Piggy to straight up hating her very existence. Wolfbeard's fusion of made-up abuse and strands of truth with Miss Piggy mirrored just the right amount of Lilith's own past traumas, and that she immediately became protective of Wolfbeard, seeing him like a wounded and broken little brother that she needed to help save. I suspect that this scenario was only possible in the first place since Wolfbeard had backed off quite a bit, having learned that Lilith already had a boyfriend. Otherwise, it's quite likely he would have shifted his sights from me to her. But as I had the grave misfortune to be one of the only single ladies in our friend group, he seemingly doubled down his focus.
Lovely. Suddenly, when I had plans to go do something with Lilith, Wolfbeard would magically be there. He'd learn that Lilith and I had plans and then lay on me. My depression is acting up and I'm scared to be alone, act real thick. And then Lilith would offer the invitation to join. I'm not going to lie, this period of time started to cause some serious issues in my friendship with Lilith. By the time the Wolfbeard Saga had concluded, our friendship had made it through one of the biggest trials of our lives. For this, I have vowed to never forgive him, as immature as it may be.
No, there's some things that are unforgivable. The promise Wolfbeard had made me to cut back on the creepiness had all but gone out the window after he felt that he had successfully befriended Lilith. Mind you, he was pretty good at restraining himself in her presence, but the second she turned her back or left the area to fetch something, he was worse than ever, making gross suggestive comments about me and my body, trying to touch my shoulders, arms, and even grabbing locks of my hair.
God. No.
I told Lilith about it, and she would ask Wolfbeard in turn, but he'd put on this boo-hoo, I'm so pathetic, I don't know how to socialize because of my abusive parents act, and nothing would ever come of it. As a result, I started getting quite cold and bitchy with him.
I don't blame you.
Good for you. Seriously. He had crossed the line, and I was done being nice.
He must have finally sensed my disgust with him, as one evening when the three of us met up for lunch, he pulled a power move with me. I thought it would be a good idea. He thought it would be a good idea to first make his heartfelt confession of love to me, and then attempt to throw my still friend at the time, Miss Piggy, under the bus. He informed me of his toxic situation and how he's planning on officially leaving her so he could properly ask me out.
It was too much for me. I probably shortened my lifespan tapping into unholy forces for the strength to restrain myself. Rather than saying everything I desperately had been wanting to for months by this point, I kept it concise in the presence of our now mutual friend.
I thank you for telling me this, Wolfbeard, but I just don't feel the same about you, and never will. I met you as my oldest friend's fiancé and can never undo that first impression. Plus, the way you've been flirting with me relentlessly, all while still engaged with her, has been a major turnoff.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
I
felt
never
my voice
try to let these people down gently.
Yeah, no. Drop them as hard as you can and hope their skull cracks.
Off a cliff.
Yeah, that too. I felt my voice began to rise and nearly unleashed the gates of hell on him, but Lilith's pleading eyes caught my attention, so I swallowed the rage and turned on my heel, preferring to excuse myself rather than cause more of a scene. That I respect you immensely for.
Yeah.
When
I do not have that control.
Yeah. When I reached my car, I got a text from Lilith. She thanked me for not going full Hulk smash on him, as he was in a fragile state. And said that she would stay behind with him and try to convince him to let his feelings for me go since I had turned him down, and the continued tension would make things uncomfortable for everyone.
Deciding to take advantage of my now freed up day, I called Miss Piggy. After everything Wolfbeard had just said about her, I wanted to hear her side of the story. She fortunately had a short day at work, so was on her way back to her apartment and said I could meet her there. The drive was short and I was there in minutes.
Despite the insensitivity of it, I wasted no time in telling her everything that Wolfbeard had confessed, his love for me included. Sadness washed over her face, and with a resigned sigh, she finally began to explain her end of things to me.
She had known about his feelings for me for a while. She had hoped that since I was repulsed by him, he would eventually give up on it and shift his focus back on to her. But it hadn't, and he had only become more and more obsessed with me. Recently, they had gotten into a fight because Wolfbeard had told Miss Piggy that he wanted to break up so he could pursue me. But Miss Piggy refused to let him go. In desperation, she held things over his head. Since he was the primary signer of the lease, if he left her, she would keep the apartment, as filthy a dump as it was.
This shouldn't have meant anything to Wolfbeard, as his obscenely rich parents had a massive house that would have welcomed him back into with open arms, but Wolfbeard was proud, and it had been a battle to convince them to let him move out in the first place, despite being a grown-ass adult already. I can relate to that. And the idea of telling his parents that he was coming back home because it hadn't worked out was too shameful for him, especially since he had put so much time into convincing Lilith that they were abusive monsters he had finally freed himself from. Ooh.
Oh boy. Out of stubbornness and pride, he stayed, and out of comfort and convenience, he didn't go through with the breakup. That being said, however, things were not good between them. She had started to pick up this game of playing that she was some kind of clairvoyant with future-telling dreams, which apparently clashed with his werewolf game, so the tension grew. Especially when she had prophetic dreams of them being married with children and me having met a man from Europe whom I had eloped.
As horrifying as it is to picture, despite this clearly toxic relationship and his growing dislike of Miss Piggy, Wolfbeard still used her for physical intimacy during this time.
Oh God, I think I just vomited.
That's very unhealthy. The epiphany was mind-numbingly sickening, but suddenly a recent change in Miss Piggy all made sense. Over the last month, she had begun attempting to change her wardrobe to resemble mine as much as she could. She started wearing darker colors, dyed her hair the same color, attempted to do her makeup the same, including black lipstick, which she used to despise, and even started wearing glasses. At the time, I assumed that she was just shifting interests and wanted to adopt a look similar to mine out of growing closeness to me, but of course, it can never be something so childishly innocent.
Oh, God.
Oh.
That is horrifying. No. Miss Pig... Yeah. Miss Piggy began attempting to appear as some morbidly obese Twilight version of myself because it was the only way she could get Wolfbeard to touch her anymore.
Twilight Zone version of
myself. Whoops.
This...
Oh, God. So unhealthy.
That's horrible. That is so horrible. Excuse me a moment. I need a second to violently retch and stare into the existential void while recalling this. I hope you're entertained. I'm dying a little inside right now.
I share that sentiment.
Yeah, no, seriously. I am feeling empathy for that. Ugh.
Yes, even though Miss Piggy knew all of this, as well as my discomfort towards Wolfbeard, she would still constantly invite me over to their apartment because she believed it was appeasing him and would make him stay. After all, if they broke up and she was his only connection to me, once she was gone, I would be out of his life as well. And if you hadn't guessed it by now, the sixth sense telling Wolfbeard whenever I was, whenever I was somewhere with Miss Piggy in town for him to miraculously show up and join us, had been Miss Piggy all along.
Oh, this is... Now, initially I was bloody outraged learning of all of this, but when she broke down crying and continued, I softened. She wept like a baby, saying how he was her first true love. He had been her pillar through high school. He had been perfect. Their relationship was perfect. Yeah, that's a lie. They were so in love and devoted to one another, but as soon as they had graduated, something shifted. He lost interest in her. He began shamelessly checking out her friends and flirting with countless women online. He had even started several online relationships straight under Miss Piggy's nose, basically telling her that because it was just online, it wasn't real. Never using real pictures of himself, of course, always sexy anime men or pictures of emo guys from Google. And even though it broke her heart, she was scared of losing him for good.
Oh,
this is a parasitic relationship.
Very much so. Mutually parasitic.
Yes.
As frustrated as I was for having been used as a tool in their broken mess of a relationship, the sobbing mess in front of me could only muster up pity in me. Instead of kicking her while she was down, I put my anger aside and gave her a hug. I told her that I understood the pain she was in, but that the relationship was absolutely poisonous and she'd be far better off if she ended it. To my surprise, she sniffed and weakly nodded her head. She even agreed to sit down and talk with him about it later that night.
Oh boy, I don't like where this is going, like in a different way now.
Yeah.
Well, a few more days passed and I hadn't heard from either of them. It wasn't until she invited both Doe and I over to her place later that week that I learned of the status of things. It seemed as though she had indeed followed my advice, at least on the surface level. She and Wolfbeard, had officially called off the engagement. However, something was still rather fishy. Wolfbeard wouldn't be moving out or putting any space between him and Miss Piggy, and more importantly, her friends. He planned to stay in the apartment strictly as Miss Piggy's platonic roommate. Ah, yes, a tiny apartment with one shared bed for non-romantically involved exes. Makes perfect sense. Oh.
Anyway, this whole situation was super weird and awkward. The dynamic between the two was virtually unchanged when they were together, but whenever they were apart, it was a very, very different tune that from both of them. Miss Piggy would agonize over how much she wanted him back and that letting him go was a huge mistake. And Wolfbeard would gripe about how much he had grown to detest Miss Piggy and how he wished he didn't have to still live with her. Yet he refused to move back home.
All the while, they were still sleeping with each other. I know, guys. It was a big mess. That's an understatement.
Yeah. Things were uncomfortable as ever whenever I was near Wolfbeard. If not more since his confession. But shit really hit the fan one fateful summer day when Lilith and I planned to go swimming at a lake. I had been super excited about the trip for days. It was a bit of a drive, but the lake was gorgeous. It was surrounded by beautiful forested hiking trails, and you could even camp there. It had been my hopes for the day. It had been because my hopes for the day had been so gloriously high that seeing him sitting in the back of Lilith's car when she came to pick me up made my heart turn to lead and drop so unbelievably hard like a sledgehammer.
I tried my best to whisper calmly to her, asking why the hell Wolfbeard was there on what was supposed to be a trip for just the two of us. She guiltily sighed and said that last night when she had mentioned our trip, Wolfbeard had become extremely sad. He told her that the breakup had left him feeling extremely depressed and alone, and he went for the kill, capitalizing off of her hatred for Miss Piggy. Desperate to both make Wolfbeard feel better and stick one to Miss Piggy, she invited him to join us on our trip to the lake.
God, I can't stand manipulative people.
This
fucking hell.
You just no. Yeah. No, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. Lilith did feel a bit bad about surprising me with his presence like this, though. She knew I was looking forward to this trip and how I am generally uncomfortable with the idea of Wolfbeard pining for me. So she only let him along under the condition that he swear he accept my rejection of his feelings, that he wouldn't spend the day trying to make me change my mind, and most importantly, he wouldn't pout about it. Since he agreed, she let him come, not knowing he had no intention of keeping his word on the matter.
The drive out to the lake surprisingly wasn't nearly as painful as I had initially suspected. Unlike every other time Wolfbeard was in proximity of a conversation, he didn't feel the need to butt in and domineer it with wild fake stories. No, today he was working at a different angle. He knew that I knew he liked me now. And he also knew that I had rejected him. So today's game was to play Mr. Sad and Broken-Hearted, despite the strict no pouting policy Lilith had literally just set in place.
Hardly said a word the whole ride. Lilith and I chatted away happily in the front of the car, and I'd occasionally glance back and catch him dramatically leaned up against the window, a hand up to the temple of his drooping head. Now and then he'd catch my eye and respond with a huge, ever so sad sigh before closing his eyes and whipping his head away. Melodramatic as it was, I far preferred this to his usual behavior, so I paid him very little mind. Unlike me, however, Lilith seemed rather irked by his direct disobedience and began to grow irritated with him.
So when we got to the lake, it was amazing. The weather was perfect, the skies were clear, and there surprisingly were very few other people. That sounds awesome. Perhaps due to the distance outside of civilization? ? Lilith and I happily bounded towards the forest trail that led to the lake, hands full of blankets and beach paraphernalia. Following behind us was Wolfbeard, sagging sadly and carrying nothing but his own pathetic mass. I didn't mind, though. I like to imagine him not even being there.
Yeah, same. Despite the basic ground rules Lilith had laid out for him, the poor beard couldn't help himself breaking another. As we neared the lake and changing rooms, Wolfbeard let out a great sigh and finally spoke.
So,
Truly a shame.
Yeah, there we go. I have to speak. Okay.
Yep. It's truly a shame, he breathily whimpered. Beautiful days like these, beautiful memories. If you were my girl, we'd make them all the time. I'd make you so happy, Calamity. I really would.
Oh my god.
Oh, just... No. Just, you don't ever refer to someone as your girl or your man or something like that. That's just possessive.
There's a difference between, like, cute possessiveness, like, oh, they're mine, and this... If you were mine...
This is just creepy.
You belong to me. Oh my god. I didn't even have to answer this time. Lilith's eyes twitched with anger and she cut in my place.
Yes, well, like it or not, you've got to accept that it's not happening. Calamity has already told you that she doesn't feel that way about you, so you need to respect her wishes and drop it. There you go.
At this time, we left him standing alone outside as we entered the women's changing rooms. I swear I could hear more projected loud sighs ringing through the air as I slipped into my bikini. That man was hell-bent on trying to guilt me into loving him. I almost felt bad for him, but this is Wolfbeard we're talking about, so he got no pity, let's be real.
He deserves none.
Yes.
When we stepped back outside, when we stepped back outside, Wolfbeard was still there, unchanged and pouting as ever. His eyes immediately wandered hungrily over our face, and it literally took Lilith directing a question at him to snap him back to attention.
Why aren't you changed? We're going into the lake.
He shrugged and looked down into the dirt trail below.
I didn't realize I needed to bring one. You never told me to.
Even Lilith, in her ever-expansive mercy on this fine specimen, was beginning to falter.
What do you mean? I told you we were going to swim in a lake today.
You should have told me to pack one still. You can always drive us back to my apartment. I could call Miss Piggy and have her run it out to me.
He offered, as if seeing nothing wrong with his proposition.
Lilith, however, looked like she was nearing a breaking point.
Wolfbeard, we drove nearly 2 hours to get here. We're not going to drive all the way back so you can get the swimsuit you should have been smart enough to know to bring in the first place.
He sighed and drooped his shoulders further.
God.
It's fine. I can always wait on the beach while you two swim.
He sadly murmured, expecting us to take pity and not actually do that.
That's exactly what we did. Lilith just shot him and all right then. And we grabbed our things and kept walking for the lake. We laid out the blankets on the beach, and while Lilith ran straight for the water, I hung back a moment to finish applying my sunscreen. It was a huge mistake leaving Wolfbeard a brief moment alone with me, and I regret it to this day.
Not wasting a moment to pounce, while applying sunscreen to the last portion of my arm, I felt sweaty, pudgy fingers come into contact with the bare skin of my back, dangerously close to my bikini strap. Ooh.
Ew.
Ooh.
Ew. 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 Ew.
I leapt forward, away from the offending hand, and whipped around to face Wolfbeard.
I was just gonna help you with your sunscreen, he said, mocking offense.
Lilith already helped me. You were there while she did it. I shot back.
I don't know why you're being so cold to me, Calamity. All I've ever done is love you. Yet you won't give me a chance, he responded stubbornly.
Nice guys.
Yep.
Wolfbeard, I've told you this once, and I'll tell you again. I am not interested in dating you.
Before I could finish, he cut me off.
I know. You met me as Miss Piggy's fiancé, and that makes it feel weird to you. But the thing is, just don't think about her. She doesn't matter. What matters right now is you and me. And I'm asking you from the bottom of my heart, please, Calamity, will you make me the happiest man alive and be my girl?
You don't ask someone out that way.
My girl, talking about my girl.
I mean, it kind of works in the 80s, but everything was cringy back then, so...
Oh, God. Let's see. Oh, shit. Whoops.
I'm not particularly proud
of my behavior on this day. I let my anger rule me and became the living embodiment of bitchiness. A hateful Amazon entity hungry for neckbeard tears possessed my spirit, and I couldn't stop myself. I reached my limit, and that was that.
I pasted the smuggest, most condescending look on my face, and I just laughed. I kept laughing, turning on my heel and walking away from him toward the beach and responded over my shoulder.
I would not date you if you were the last man on Earth, so just drop it. I will never be attracted to you.
I then promptly swam out to join Lilith in the middle of the lake. She had been popping underwater here and there, so she hadn't caught what had happened. But she definitely noticed Wolfbeard's behavior. This giant man-baby had walked over to one of the old picnic tables on the bench and had strewn his forearm across the top of the table. He laid stomach down, his face buried in his arms, and his form shook as though he were weeping.
When she asked me what was wrong and what had happened, I finally stopped holding back. Everything I had been feeling the past months and had been holding back from saying came pouring out in a vicious amalgamation of venom and spite. I told her how he had just groped my back and asked me out again when she was out of earshot before going into a full-blown tirade. I don't know if we were far enough out for him to hear us or not, but at this point, I didn't care.
I said how unattractive I found him, how it was hypocritical that he was an obese slop, yet only lusted after a woman way above of his level, and paid no mind to or what was even downright nasty about girls who were actually in his league. How he constantly stank, never brushed his teeth, and put zero effort into his own appearance while somehow fancying himself God's gift to womankind. How I was sick of his bullshitting stories for attention, and how pathological liars repulsed me. I even let myself swing way low below the belt and said I really hated werewolves and thought they were the lamest of all paranormal creatures, and that I would by far rather date a vampire if given the choice. I was going in for the kill, and I knew it, but I just couldn't stop myself.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, God, that feels good. Well, apparently, Wolfbeard could still hear us from our position out in the middle of the lake because at the mention of the word vampire and my apparent willingness to bang one of those blood-sucking chads, can't blame you there, he got up from the table and stormed off into the woods, howling in a mixture of sorrow and rage, scaring the absolute shit out of the poor little girls building a sandcastle nearby.
I mean, just as long as it's not Vampire Potter.
Oh, God. So long as it doesn't seem to be filled with kerosene and comes specifically from Forks, Washington. Because then it'll be an abusive, jealous prick.
For the briefest moment, I felt a little regret and guilt, but the feeling of relief I got from finally saying everything that had been on my mind was way too strong. Lilith looked a little sad and worried for him as he ran off, but ultimately didn't reprimand me for my outburst. She understood how I had been feeling, and despite wanting to help Wolfbeard, she agreed that his lack of respect towards my boundaries was unacceptable.
So we simply ignored his little outburst for attention. It wasn't raining, so there weren't any mud puddles for him to lodge himself into, so we swam the day away. It was lovely. We had a blast swimming at the lake, pushing each other off the dock and enjoying a picnic on the beach. I had completely forgotten about Wolfbeard until the sun began to set and we started packing up and still had not seen a sign of him.
While we carried our things back to the car, Lilith called his cell phone. No answer. Oh well, he can stay here.
I said that sentiment. Okay, that's how I felt, but Lilith was worried. So after loading the car, I opted to wait in the passenger seat while she headed back into the park to find him. She had her phone out and tried calling him again. As she walked away, speaking quickly into the phone, I assumed she had finally gotten an answer. About 20 minutes passed, and I had lost my patience. As I prepared to call Lilith and ask her to just come back and leave him, I spotted two figures moving out of the trail. The sun was nearly set by now, and I was just ready to go home.
Wolfbeard refused to make eye contact with me as he climbed into the back seat of the car. Lilith looked apologetically while she hopped into the driver's seat. With a sigh, she addressed me.
Calamity, the things you said really hurt Wolfbeard's feelings.
Don't you dare play this card.
Dude, this dude's manipulating an abuse victim.
I sighed. I did have the tiniest pang of guilt from being so harsh. I realized by now he must have finally made the connection that I was absolutely never going to date him, so there'd be no harm in offering an olive branch. So I straightened up and spoke.
Sorry for saying such harsh things. I was angry because I felt like my wishes were not being respected. I won't ever be that cruel again. I just want you to understand that I don't want you to keep trying to make me date you.
I wouldn't have apologized for being so harsh. I would have just said, well, isn't that something? And just
then again, I'm also
left it at that because I hold grudges. Wolfbeard didn't respond with an apology of his own. He simply continued to stare out the window and only sighed deeper. His running off in the forest didn't attract my pity and attention like he had hoped, so now he could only pout. He sighed again and muttered under his breath.
One day I'll find my princess. She'll be the happiest woman on earth. I don't know why pretty girls have to be such bitches when nice guys are just trying to compliment them. It's always the same.
R/nice guy.
Fuck you.
At this, any pity I had for him flew out the window, and the hateful Amazon returned to my spirit once more, smiling wickedly at the thought of further crushing the will of this pitiful specimen.
Hell yeah.
Don't do it. It's not worth it. I mean, it's satisfying.
It's always worth it.
It's satisfying, yes, but satisfaction isn't worth everything. If he was going to keep carrying on back there about what a bitch I was for not hooking up with him, I'd show him the full depths of my bitchiness for the evening.
For the remainder of the ride home, I completely ignored the presence of Wolfbeard. Instead, over the whole 2-hour drive, I spoke excitedly to Lilith about all the metal and punk band members I just found so sexy. how well-groomed men with a dark and alternative aesthetic were just eye candy to me. How I just loved to get my hands on a big, beefy man with carved muscles and a perfect jawline. Same. I'm pretty sure Lilith knew what I was up to because she started to raise a brow at me and shoot me a disapproving look as I crooned on about all the features I love in men that Wolfbeard decidedly did not have.
Sensing that Lilith was getting tired of this and wanted me to change subjects, I went to sneak in one last jab to just top it with a cherry. I brought up another guy friend that I had met online and mentioned the huge crush I had on him at the time and how I thought he was into me too. I loudly debated whether or not I should go for it despite the distance. I've never liked long distance relationships, but I made sure to announce that I might be willing to make an exception because damn, was this man so hot. Never in my life have I laid it on so thick, even to this day. It was so out of character, it's like an out-of-body experience thinking back on it, LOL.
Oh god, that's amazing. Needless to say, the jab hit. I could feel the cloud of his furious aura looming the rest of the ride back. He neither spoke nor sighed the entire time, just looked out the window and occasionally shot daggers at the back of my head.
I had finally done it. I had finally gotten myself off his radar. I was no longer a pure innocent milady in search of my knight in shining fedora. No, I was clearly a whorish witch leading on this poor loyal werewolf until I could fly away with vampire Chad spitting on all the nice guys below as we fled into the night. My ordeal was finally over.
Nice. I love that image.
This prose is great.
Oh my god. Or at least, that's what I thought. You see, I underestimated the vindictiveness of a beard's scorn. Wolfbeard had become entirely obsessed with me over the last few months, so much so that he couldn't stand the thought of me being happy in someone else's arms. If I wouldn't be happy with him, I wouldn't be happy at all, and he would try his damnedest to make this a reality. But you know the drill. Oh shit, whoops.
Sorry. But you know the drill. That's a whole different story for another time. Join me again for the thrilling conclusion in the final chapter of Wolfbeard next time. I'll see you guys later. Stay safe and avoid those vampire chads. They're the worst kind.
All right. We're going to have to try and speed run this last one.
Yeah, and I think it's about as long as the one we just read is, so
I think we could do that in less than 30.
Okay. Well, let's do this. Try to keep the commentary even more at a minimum.
The Fall of Wolfbeard, final chapter. Hello, dear friends. It's bittersweet to announce that this is the final chapter in the Wolfbeard Saga. I thank you all sincerely for the amazing support and feedback. It's been a wild and greatly therapeutic experience.
However, don't be too sad if you're hoping for more Wolfbeard adventures. I'll shortly begin writing another epic saga, the Miss Piggy Chronicles, and where there's Miss Piggy, Wolfbeard is sure to rear his fearsome neck waddle. For all the questions I raised in this series that never got answered, be prepared. Soon you'll know everything. Probably lots of things you wish you'd never have to know, too. But that's exactly the kind of pain you masochists come here for, right? Well, she's not wrong. So don't be sad. I'll see you again on our next grand adventure. But for now, let's send off the mighty Wolfbeard Saga with the craziest twists and turns, yet in some good old-fashioned retribution.
When we last left our mighty lupine hero, he had been gravely wounded by the dark and cruel milady. No, she was no longer a milady. She was now an evil slut who dared to crush the heart of the nicest gentle sir in existence, all to feed her own sadistic appetite. How could she turn down such a fine creature? Epitome of alpha, a true apex. It must be dark, evil powers, the likes of which he feared to comprehend. Clearly it was witchcraft, and I, the witch, must be punished for my crimes.
Burn the witch. And that's what he proceeded to do for the next 2 weeks. Apparently my harsh rejection had hit him way harder than I had thought. Again, I'll admit, I wasn't very nice to him at the lake. Well, he deserved it. I probably could have left it at, I'm not the slightest bit attracted to you and never will be. I will never date you. Your behavior is repulsive to me.
What's the fun in that? He was clearly coddled since childhood and wasn't used to not getting his way. So it was already massively upsetting to him. His ego had been badly bruised by my forceful rejection alone, and my vengeful tirade in the middle of the lake likely did nothing more than add salt to the wound.
Good.
But as I was so full of fury from months of politely and gently telling him I wasn't interested in being blatantly ignored and continually harassed to that I lost control. And let's be honest, It's freaking hilarious that out of everything nasty I said, it was my preference of vampires to werewolves that cut the deepest. Like, holy damn, buddy. Wow.
Anyways, I had hurt his feelings so badly that I had finally destroyed his obsession with me. However, with Wolfbeard, apparently if he couldn't have me, he was damn well determined to destroy me. His ego needed something to help it recover, and that would be the perfect way.
Of course, with his gross infatuation with me finally over, he wasted no time in finding a new target. And the next lucky recipient of his obsession was Lilith. See, since she had been so kind to him and had even defended him a few times, he had taken to seeing her as a being of pure light. Never mind the little boyfriend problem. After all, in the weeks prior, things had been looking rocky. What luck to be there just in time to benefit from her emotional turmoil.
Ugh, worst kind of people. And so Wolfbeard set his evil plans into motion. Plans that would rock our entire friend group for the next 2 weeks and almost destroyed it entirely. But do you know what they say about weaving a web of lies? Eventually you'll get tangled. And boy, was the aftermath ugly for him.
The first thing at the top of Wolfbeard's checklist was to begin driving a wedge between Lilith and I. He had already begun all the groundwork in gaining Lilith's sympathy, so he knew what angle to play in turning her on me, and he could already tell that I was frustrated with the way she would baby him and defend him. So his wicked little mind knew exactly what to do on my end as well.
The next few times I spoke with Lilith were rather tense. He had called her more than once in the wee hours, sobbing about how the things I had told him made him want to kill himself. Do it, you coward. That he was already so emotionally weak from his parents and Miss Piggy's emotional abuse, and my words were just too much. She was rather short with me, getting irritated and snapping whenever I'd mention him in a bad light.
After one particularly tense day, she lost it with me, finally telling me the reason he was so broken and acted so badly. She told me about the abuse his parents and Miss Piggy had caused him to endure, and while I was only making it worse and was being extremely selfish, driving him to want to kill himself.
This was extremely shocking to me. I had met his parents before, and as previously mentioned, they were not wicked people. They doted on Wolfbeard and spoiled him rotten, and Miss Piggy, for all her flaws, was head over heels for that sack of shit. She was never anything less than 100% willing to do anything in her power to please him, even at her own expense. My response was to call him on his bullshit. I tried telling Lilith about what a pathological liar Wolfbeard was, how he had made up his abusive childhood for pity, and that though Miss Piggy was controlling, he was also lying about her.
This was the breaking point for Lilith. Now, before I go any further, let me be clear on this. You may think Lilith foolish and gullible, or even a terrible friend for the things she did over the course of the saga. Believe me, I've seen a few comments being highly critical of these points. But what you need to understand is that what is actually logical. What is actually logical doesn't always seem to be logical to abuse survivors.
Yeah, that's true. I've talked to Lilith recently and told her about how I was transcribing our experiences into stories, and she gave me permission to delve deeper into her own traumas, so you all can not only have a deeper understanding of why things happened the way they did in the story, but also to help those unfamiliar with the events of effects of trauma and the irrational behaviors and reactions it can cause. Can perhaps learn more about it and better understand other survivors that they may encounter in their own lives.
See, I briefly mentioned that Lilith had gone through a lot in her past, but not wanting to overstep, I left it at that. But the truth is, the reason Lilith was so susceptible to Wolfbeard's lies is because she had very recently gotten out of a terrible situation, and it was all still fresh in her mind. Wolfbeard said his childhood was emotionally and mentally abusive, and that really hit the mark because Lilith's childhood genuinely was. To put it frankly, her parents never wanted her, and they had never been shy to let her know. Anytime anything went wrong, they'd find some way to blame her. Even as a young child, things only got worse when her baby sister came along. This time, her parents were actually trying, so the baby was the anointed wanted one.
Ugh. Lilith's childhood was filled with neglect, all the while seeing her little sister spoiled rotten and showered with the love and affection she so desperately wanted but was never given. This caused her to start acting out in her teen years, desperate for scraps of attention, even if it was negative. But her parents genuinely did not care. They let her drift. It was up to a literal child to realize her life was worth more than the choices she was making, and get herself clean and out of contact with bad influence she had befriended, hoping for attention that would never come. Mind you, they never hit her, but I promise you, being told you should have been aborted and that the divorce was entirely your fault and that you're a failure and always will be hurts just as bad and lasts far longer. Oh
God. And as is often the case with victims of abuse, they tend to attract more abusers. A slew of boyfriends that beat, assaulted, and controlled her left Lilith extremely timid and agreeable to whatever men told her to be true, as questioning their authority in any way more often than not led to brutal punishments.
Ugh. Sorry to darken the mood by dropping this on you all, but I'm sure by now you're starting to see the clear picture as to how Lilith was so easily convinced by Wolfbeard. Not only had she been classically conditioned to not question what a man told her to be fact or else suffer the consequences, but this man seemed to be very kind and gentle to her, and he seemed to understand some of what she had been through, since he had also grown up in a traumatic environment. Lilith wore a ferocious exterior, but during this time she was actually very broken inside, and by me calling him another abuse survivor a liar, I was essentially calling her a liar too, and that was not something Lilith would accept.
Oh God, yeah.
Keep going.
What really burns me up to this day is how truly depraved Wolfbeard must have been. What kind of sick bastard could listen to someone open up about the horrific traumas they've endured, and then lie to them right to their face, making up fairy tales about events that never happened to them so as to earn their pity, or worse, prey on them? I'm sure that there's a term for people like this, but I haven't thought of one. Foul enough. Sadly, Machiavellian does not really sound like foul enough for that.
Yeah. Anyways, now that that's in the air, let's move on. So after a heated discussion with Lilith where she refused to believe me when I told her Wolfbeard was a dirty liar, we kind of stopped speaking for a while. At this point in time, she had not yet been ready to share the entirety of the abuse she had suffered with me, so I wasn't aware of the complex reasoning going down on her end. I was extremely frustrated with her for being what I saw as gullible and willfully turning a blind eye to defend a pig. And of course, for all the reasons I have previously listed, she saw me as being super hurtful and insensitive to abuse survivors, and in turn was frustrated with me.
Wolfbeard, of course, reveled in the tension he was creating. He began spending more and more time with Lilith, claiming that his situation was growing more dire. Right around this time, Lilith and her boyfriend had finally broken up, which only added to the cocktail of distress she was dealing with. And Wolfbeard was madly giddy over the prospect of moving in like a scavenger. Lilith had also made it clear to him multiple times that she was not interested, but we all know how well Wolfbeard takes a gentle decline to his offers, so of course he didn't drop it.
Seeing Lilith's current state from her breakup and her tension with me, Wolfbeard decided to see how far he could push it. I'm guessing that the way he saw it, since I was disgusted by him, so long as I was friends with Lilith, she'd be influenced by me and reject him. So end of story, I had to go.
He began having tear-jerking conversations with Lilith about how he believed I was aiming to destroy his life, how I was mad at him, how I was mad that she was spending time with him despite me disliking him, and as a result had started a bullying campaign against him. Yep. According to old Wolfie, I was manipulating all of our mutual friends and family members, even all of our online friends, into hating him. I was spreading lies about him and telling everyone to say nasty things to him and ignore him, and how all the stress of this was making him want to hurt himself more than ever. All absurd fantasies, of course, but it only deepened the rift.
Meanwhile, he still had other elements to juggle, so the manipulation didn't end there. To make sure I didn't eventually catch on and talk sense into Lilith and finally make her understand the truth, he had to make me just as mad at her as she was with me, so any attempts of communication would cease. So that's when he started feeding select information and lies to Miss Piggy, whom I was still on fairly good terms with. He knew that she would pass the information along to me, and that I'd automatically distrust anything that came directly from him, but would lend some consideration to Miss Piggy. He couldn't have me questioning too hard as to exactly why Lilith was so irritated with me, so he planned ahead for this.
Wolfbeard, Yep. Wolfbeard fed Miss Piggy information about the nature of Lilith's anger toward me. According to him, Lilith was livid with me for not giving Wolfbeard a chance in dating him. This made Miss Piggy furious. Even though they had called off the engagement, she still loved Wolfbeard. and the idea of Lilith, one of her least favorite people, spending a bunch of alone time with her beloved and seemingly trying to sabotage her desire to get back together with him by hooking up with others was maddening to her.
And of course, this pissed me off a great deal as well because I felt betrayed. I had told Lilith countless times how uncomfortable Wolfbeard made me. And to know she had been trying to go against my wishes and force me together with him behind my back was unthinkable. So by this point, Lilith and I were no longer speaking, and I didn't even know if I could still consider her a friend. Oh,
now
guy.
Now that vile task was out of the way, Wolfbeard moved on to the next step in Operation Acquire Goth Girlfriend 2.0, knowing full well of Lilith's less than flattering thoughts on Miss Piggy and Miss Piggy's mutual dislike. He decided to use this to his advantage. He began to play a new and more intense angle for pity. He began to tell Lilith that Miss Piggy had begun to physically abuse him. He had said he was scared of her and couldn't stand living with her any longer, but his only alternative was moving back home with his oh-so-cruel parents. And because of this, he was going to need even more emotional support and spend time with Lilith. More more than ever before he was going to spend time with Lilith than ever before if he was ever going to survive.
Now, before y'all ask just how the heck he managed to convince Lilith beyond a doubt that he was actually moving back home, let me tell you the depths of this psycho's plotting. He straight up packed up a bunch of his stuff into boxes and had Lilith come help him move them back to his parents' house while Miss Piggy was away at work. He deadass went through that much trouble for a lie. Continue.
No, sorry, it was just like the pros and then deadass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck, yeah, okay, I needed that.
Okay, right. Cool. You're welcome.
So now, let me recap all of the puppet strings beginning to tangle for you. He had Lilith mad at me for bullying him, me mad at Lilith for backstabbing me, and Miss Piggy furious with Lilith about all the extra time they were spending together. To defuse the latter, he swore to Miss Piggy that he wasn't hanging out with Lilith anymore to respect her discomfort. Instead, he would lie to her every time he met up with Lilith, telling her that his dad had called him back into work. It seemed the only one he hadn't pulled into the madness was Doe. Valor too, but she was mercifully back on the other side of the state for school and avoided this whole mess.
Wolfbeard didn't know how to begin going about manipulating Doe. She had no pre-standing biases or tensions for him to take advantage of, and she had remained neutral in all of it and was still friends with everyone. And this would prove to be Wolfbeard's undoing. There you go.
He decided to try playing both sides by telling her that Lilith was mad at me for being nasty at him, and that little innocent him couldn't understand why I was mad at Lilith when it was me being such a big meanie head after all. He also told her that about how much time he'd been spending with Lilith, and not to tell Miss Piggy because he knew she didn't like Lilith and he didn't want to upset her.
He had anticipated and planned for a lot, but he hadn't thought up of one factor. Everyone he was speaking to separately talking to each other and realizing it didn't add up.
One evening, about 2 weeks after the tension had started, Doe and I met up at Miss Piggy's to hang out. As much as I was disgusted by Wolfbeard, I had resigned myself to just accepting his presence at Miss Piggy's. And other than sad looks, he had finally started leaving me alone. While he was in the shower, and Miss Piggy was cooking something on the one cleared-off stovetop. Sounds like a fire hazard. Doe and I chatted in the front room.
A while into the visit, Doe asked me why I was mad at Lilith, since Wolfbeard had failed to come up with an explanation for this. I told her it was because Lilith had been trying to hook me up with Wolfbeard behind my back and had broken my trust. I was surprised to see Doe's baffled expression. She processed my answer for a moment before interjecting.
Wait, she was what? That's not what Wolfbeard told me. He said she was mad at you for trying to get a bunch of people to bully him and be nasty to him.
What? I practically yelped.
I was flabbergasted by this. Sure, I had been a bit mean at the lake, and that hardly counts as launching a bullying campaign. And I told Doe as much. At this point, something smelled really fishy. My anger and Lilith had begun to melt away once I realized that the whole thing had been a scheme set up by Wolfbeard. But I knew that the only way to clear things up fully would be to talk it out. But if Wolfbeard had her convinced I was relentlessly abusing him, there'd be no way in hell she'd answer my call, or even believe me for that matter without solid physical proof to show her.
It was at this point that we began to brainstorm. Doe mentioned how Wolfbeard was planning on meeting with Lilith that night, and that perhaps she could tag along and try to get a moment alone with Lilith that evening. However, at the mention of plans for the evening, Miss Piggy's radar finally sprung into action, pinging her rapidly into the living room.
What do you mean Wolfbeard is spending time with Lilith tonight? He told me he was done spending time with her. He's been going in for an extra shift at work he's going in for an extra shift at work tonight so he could afford to take me out to a nice dinner, Miss Piggy cut in defensively.
At this, the remaining missing pieces fell into place, and Doe and I hatched an evil plan to ensnare the vile werewolf in his own den of lies. Upon realizing that Miss Piggy was also being fed a different story, we decided to push her into action. We explained just how much time Wolfbeard had actually been spending with Lilith, and that he had been lying all along about going into work. Turned out he had been using this excuse quite a lot. She was livid. Not with Wolfbeard, of course, but with Lilith.
Of course. With this little bit of prodding, Miss Piggy stormed off in a violent fervor. She charged into the bedroom and was out a moment later, Wolfbeard's cell phone in hand. Apparently, he was still in the shower and left it on the bed. I'll always be amazed at Wolfbeard's ability to take longer showers than a woman but still come out smelling like body odor and cheese. Yeah. I suppose he must think water alone is enough and avoid actual soap.
This was back in the day of flip phones, and before Wolfbeard was smart enough to password protect. In seconds, Miss Piggy was speeding through all his interactions with Lilith over the past 2 weeks. Apparently, he had listed her number as Jim, a work associate, but Miss Piggy had always been a bit suspicious since it seemed like Wolfbeard was spending a whole lot of time chatting with Jim, always with a dreamy expression, no less.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
As she scrolled, she turned deeper and darker shades of fuchsia. Unable to stop herself, Doe and I choosing not to intervene, Miss Piggy sent her own message to Lilith, giving the length and fervor speed at which she typed. We assumed it was less than pleasant.
In short, she called Lilith a homewrecker and demanded she leave Wolfbeard alone, that they were working things out and he loved her. Moments later, Lilith responded. Now it was her turn to be angry. She called Miss Piggy abusive and said that Wolfbeard hated her and had told her so. That's why he moved out and never wanted to see her again.
Miss Piggy about lost her mind at this. She assured Lilith that Wolfbeard was not only still living with her, but was also still intimate with her. In fact, Lilith called her a liar and said that she helped Wolfbeard move out, so she knew for a fact he was done with her.
This was the last straw for Miss Piggy. Not only was Lilith saying things that conflicted the story she desperately clung to, but she claimed to have been in her home despite Miss Piggy forbidding it. Unable to restrain herself, Miss Piggy pulled a power move. Crashing back into the bedroom, Miss Piggy then took a picture of the bathroom, showcasing Wolfbeard's filthy discarded clothes, his toiletries on the counter, and of course his grotesque silhouette behind the shower curtain in plain view.
She then proceeded to send it to Lilith, jabbing, does this look moved out and avoiding me to you? He's naked in my house right now.
However, all this commotion finally caught Wolfbeard's attention. After hurriedly exiting the shower and dressing himself in a fresh wolf-themed t-shirt, he spotted Miss Piggy with his phone. At this, he went ballistic. He grabbed her by the shoulders and screamed in her face. I genuinely thought he was going to hit her when he went to raise a hand, but remembering Doe and I being present, he settled for punching a door and howling in rage.
Oh boy. At this, Doe and I protectively yanked Miss Piggy away from him and prepared to throw down I gotta sneeze. Oh God, it was one of those cases where I wasn't going to sneeze, but I felt like it.
Yeah, I hate those.
And prepared to throw down if he tried anything, but before it could escalate to that, his phone began to ring. Seeing it was Lilith's number, he was fast to answer and tear off into the bedroom, slamming the door behind him. Despite this, we could hear everything loud and clear.
He put on his most pathetic voice, then begged for a chance to explain himself, but it was too late. Lilith had finally put the pieces together and was beyond forgiveness. We could hear her screaming through the speaker, clear from the other side of the door. She shouted that if he could so easily lie about his supposed abuse with Miss Piggy, he could just as easily lie to her about the other abuse. And anyone lying about abuse of any kind for attention was a mortal sin in Lilith's eyes. She was not wrong. And it was all the more personal because she had defended his lying ass against friends. Just like that, one simple photo had completely broken her trust and brought about a wrath that made my outburst at the lake seem like a gentle pat on the head.
I couldn't hear it all because of the seemingly endless onslaught sort of merged together from the distance where I stood, but I heard enough to know Wolfbeard would not easily recover. Terms like disgusting, hideous, repulsive, and pathetic rebounded through the air. And as if telepathetically responding to my mental finish him, she went in for the kill.
The reason women don't want to date you isn't because they're cruel and picking on you, Wolfbeard. You are a disgusting, arrogant liar that's so truly worthless he has to make shit up to get scraps of pity attention. You constantly salivate over women way outside of your league, but you're a gross slob that's not even a 3 out of 10 on a generous day. No beautiful woman will ever love you because you're disgusting both inside and out, so you might as well stay with Miss Piggy since that's about all you'll ever get.
Oh! Damn! Damn! The resounding silence after Lilith hung up on him was so intense that I had to excuse myself. On the way out to the car, I got a massive text message from Lilith. She was overwhelmed by everything that she had just learned and was terrified that our friendship had been destroyed over what ultimately amounted to nothing more than a man-baby's temper tantrum. She begged that I meet up with her for dinner at Denny's that night and talk through everything that had happened. You never end up at Denny's at a normal time. It's always the middle of the night.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, that's the best time to go.
And since I also didn't want our long-standing friendship to die over one vile beard, I agreed. That evening
was a wild...
Oh, whoops.
It's my line.
Yes, it is.
That evening was a wild, emotional roller coaster. Right from the moment Lilith spotted me in the parking lot, she ran over and hugged me, sobbing. And just like that, any remaining irritation I had with her flew right out the window, and I started the waterworks too. Funny how Denny seems to be a place where a lot of weird stuff happens. You just sort of end up there, really, and no matter the wild situation, they're used to it. We walked in, still sniffing and hugging, and the hostess and the other diners didn't bat an eye. Oh my god, that's an amazing story setting for just a regular story. I love it! Okay, your line.
Honestly, we did way more talking than eating. We discussed everything that had happened on our various ends during the 2 weeks we hadn't spoken. It was blatantly obvious how much Wolfbeard had been manipulating us and poisoning us against each other.
Sorry, I got some water. At this point, all of our anger with each other evaporated and was refined and redirected solely at Wolfbeard. He may have thought himself an evil mastermind about to get away with the biggest scheme of all time completely scot-free, but it all horrifically imploded around him in the blink of an eye. And believe me, he felt the consequences.
Over the next few days, not a single mutual friend of our entire social circle was unaware of his actions. He had found himself completely excommunicated, a total pariah, and his already decimated ego took another great hit when he was actually forced to move back home with his parents. Miss Piggy was too hurt by the Lilith incident. She demanded he leave, and in that he seemingly lost his greatest ally and defender. No one but his abusive mother remained to cuddle him, like an innocent little baby, and ensure him those big bad meanies were just picking on him and he did nothing wrong.
Always starts in the home. Even his online refuge where he could hide behind the safety of a hot buff anime character as a deceptive icon was tainted by his actions. He was booted from my group chat, which he had pressured me into adding him to, and almost no one would dare speak to him again. Both Lilith and I did not mince our words when we explained to the group why he was banned. We made it quite clear that he was a deeply deranged individual who not only consistently sexually harassed every woman he got within 10 feet of, but that he was also manipulative and toxic, and because of this, we were no longer comfortable keeping any kind of contact with him.
Just like that, he was instantaneously ghosted by just about every contact he previously had. Ours as it may be, don't pity the beard. He brought about his own downfall. Besides, aren't werewolves supposed to be solitary creatures? Poor fool should have sided with the bloodsuckers. At least they have elaborate underworld societies. I know, right?
Yeah. Anyways, after the aftermath of the Wolfbeard experience settled, our friendship survived. As of writing this, 5 years have passed since these events came to pass. And in that time, we've grown older and wiser. Lilith and I are no longer the same innocent and easy to emotionally manipulate little college girls. Time and experience has made us far less patient beings, and I cannot begin to emphasize enough how much less shit we are willing to put up with today. I guarantee you all that if this were to all happen today, it wouldn't even be able to start, because I would have cut Wolfbeard down the second he started being creepy and gone on with my life, because I haven't the time or energy to deal with trifles.
Lilith is also much more difficult to take advantage of emotionally now. She's long since made peace with her past, is in a pretty good place now. She's also in a very healthy relationship with an amazing guy that is living proof that the good ones are indeed out there amongst all the trash. But it's also an unfortunate result of Wolfbeard's utter foolery. But as an unfortunate result of Wolfbeard's utter foolery, she now has a hairpin trigger for trifling and will come for your life if you even hint at playing with her. So watch out.
Anyways, our entire friend group has withstood the test of time. Lilith, Doe, Valor, and I are still dear friends to this day, minus the exception of Miss Piggy. But for you to understand that, you need to understand the darkness she had been hiding from us all this time. You'd also need to understand Wolfbeard's desperate attempts for retaliation and trying to save face amongst the shame. But for that, another story alone simply isn't enough.
No, we need to begin a whole new saga, and that, my friends, is where we'll pick up on our new adventures. I'll see you again as we embark on our newest gauntlet, the Miss Piggy Chronicles.
But until then, farewell, my friends, and thank you for joining me on this journey. May your necks be clean-shaven and your werewolf hunts bountiful. Godspeed, my chads and my ladies. Godspeed. And until then, farewell from us here at...
What are we reading?
Well, whatever we're going to call... what are we reading? There we go.
And with that, I think I will leave you with what I have for the Wolfbeard Limerick.
Here we go.
There once was a man from the There once was a beard from the Pacific Northwest, and harassing women was what he did best. Oh God, I just forgot the second. I forgot the third and fourth line.
All right, hold on. It'll come to you.
Okay. Harassing women was what he did best. Oh, for a cute. Okay, yeah. Let's start this all over because I now remember it in full. Okay. There once was a beard from the Pacific Northwest, and harassing women was what he did best. There was a cute little goth girl that he lusted for, but since she didn't want him, she was merely a whore. Clad himself in a greasy cap of golf, and thought himself a true werewolf. Good night, everybody.
Good night. This is Tom.
This is Llytic.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.